tell me I am a good mom, and it's going to be maybe emotionally heavy for some of you. It certainly is for me. I am 8 weeks postpartum, and I feel so completely trapped in what I know and realize is my body, but is just not my body again yet. And what I mean by that is that you have your baby, and everyone puts this 6 week marker on you can have sex again, like you should be starting to thinking about exercise again. And 6 weeks, like it to me must be some made up number. Maybe it's when your uterus heals not enough, but that has not been my situation. Um I am still bleeding. I had a C-section, and I stopped bleeding pretty quickly after I had my baby. I only bled for 5 or 6 days. And then about a month into postpartum, I started bleeding again. And I have now had to take misoprostol twice, 2 weeks in a row, to try to stop the bleeding. And now my doctor has discovered that I most likely have some retained placenta in my uterus. And she also discovered that I have an enormous cyst on my left ovary from a failed ovulation. So she thinks my body tried to ovulate, failed, and that follicle is now developing into a very big cyst. It's like 5 centimeters right now, and it's 7 centimeters. She has to operate on it. And so I'm currently taking progesterone orally to try to shrink the cyst. And in a few days, I have a scan at the hospital to get a look at the cyst and the uterus in general to understand like what we need to do to go forward. And I have to just tell you that you have a baby, and a few weeks later, you're supposed to start to get your body back, or at least that's what the books tell you, what doctors tell you. That's like the general, I don't know, what people generally say. And at least in my case, this just continues on. Like, I'm supposed to be in this, like, be gentle with yourself phase. And I'm still in this of the moment medical phase. And I am so physically exhausted and emotionally exhausted by it. So today's episode is called I'm Trapped in My Postpartum Body, not just because of this stupid cyst and my retained placenta, but because of all of the weight that I'm still carrying that I gained during pregnancy, because of my hormonal state, which is unlike anything else you could possibly experience in this lifetime on this earth. I have so many notes on this. Where everyone else thinks you should be is part of it too. And I just want to say, it's really challenging. I have spoken a lot about my postpartum experience on my social media channels, and I have found it to be some of the most engaging content I've ever created. And so talking about this today or creating this episode today is not necessarily to try to like juice the algorithm with more. It's really my opportunity to sit down and have a more honest, long form conversation with all of you about postpartum, the postpartum body, the postpartum mind, the postpartum experience, because this is something that very few people talk about. It is so underrepresented in media, and it has changed me biologically, cellularly, forever. And it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's hard. I keep saying this lately, hard does not equal bad. In this case, some of it is bad. But I really want to shine a light on postpartum and my own personal postpartum experience in this episode. And for me, frankly, a lot of it has been physical, more physical than mental and emotional, but it's starting to become really emotional because the physical stuff just won't stop. And because of that, it's starting to eat away at me emotionally. I know that a lot of women really suffer in postpartum with depression and anxiety, and that is the big thing that you hear about when it comes to postpartum. I think that's where everybody's mind really goes. Sorry to interrupt. I'm literally having such bad cramps right now. It feels like I'm having a little contraction because my uterus is just what the fuck is happening 8 weeks later? I digress. Postpartum is so much more than just the mental and the emotional. But let's touch on that first, because I think that is to the point, what most people talk about and think about when they think about postpartum. And everyone knows that your hormones completely fall off a cliff after you have a baby. But I don't think it's in the way that people kind of imagine if it hasn't happened to them. I've been trying to describe it like this to people. If you've ever taken magical mushrooms or heavy psychedelics and you experience how entirely world-altering they can be, the human body on its own has the capacity to absolutely fuck you up like that postpartum, immediately after you give birth. And not in this sparkly, I'm looking at the trees and the moon and Mother Nature is talking to me and all of a sudden I'm Wicca. I mean in the fact that hormones are so strong and so powerful that I could feel emotionally and mentally like my body is upside down and I'm literally living on a different planet, and you don't really know who your name is for a number of days. And you're with it enough to just observe and keep your baby alive. The basic things. But you go from feeling pretty normal to you have taken really heavy mind-altering drugs, but you haven't taken really heavy mind-altering drugs. And that is exactly how it feels in the days after you give birth. I think just from the dramatic shift in hormones, right? Because when you get pregnant, your body grows an entirely new organ. It grows the placenta, and the placenta becomes responsible for creating hormones and hormone regulation. And you have to birth the placenta, and when you get rid of it, your body is how the fuck are we supposed to create and regulate all these hormones all of a sudden? And it is that huge shift, that dramatic shift, that forces your body to immediately react and try to recalibrate. And that system is broken for a while, and it causes depression, and it causes anxiety, and it causes women to think and feel things that are totally abnormal. And I certainly experienced that after birth. I don't think anybody doesn't experience that after birth. The experience of having to take care of your beautiful new baby. Oh my God, I should have brought Nell to the recording. But it's like figuring out your new identity in the world. And that is a part of like the emotions of postpartum that a lot of people don't really talk about, right? And your new role as a mother, because you go from, at least first-time moms, because I'm a first-time mom. I'm 39. I've just taken care of myself for 39 years, and all of a sudden I birth this baby, and there's no going back. And I don't want to go back, but you don't have the possibility, right? And your life changes in an absolute instant. And I don't think enough gravitas is put on like that specific part of it, right? And then the invisible cognitive work that you must do as a mother to take care of your baby, your family for the rest of time. Because it is invisible cognitive work. And it's shocking once you realize that like that is your new status quo. You do the cognitive work, you also do the physical work, right? The physical work to me is frankly kind of fun. Like I love holding my baby, I love feeding her. I love like cleaning up her room and making sure she's okay when she cries and all of this stuff. Taking her on walks, all of that stuff is a joy and is so pleasant. But the cognitive work is really tough. And like the day-to-day is just, it's brain fog. It's mood swings. It's crying without knowing why. As an example, in New York City, we've had these huge storms this winter. And the most recent storm, after it ended, my husband and I were out on the street to take our dog to the dog park so he could play in the snow. My husband was carrying the baby. And I was always nervous about the storms for some reason. Because of postpartum, I bought all these water bottles. I was convinced that an emergency was going to happen. Anyway, I was standing on the street corner with my family, and like I look around, and there's not even that much snow on the ground. The snow had started to melt, and I got scared. And I don't even know what I got scared of. Like the hugeness of the world, potentially. The fact that my dog's stupid snowshoe that protects his paw from the salty sidewalks of New York City had fallen off and I couldn't get it back on and I had so much guilt. I literally can't tell you. But I started to sob on the street corner because I felt so deeply afraid of just standing there and being out in the elements, even though I was with my husband and the storm was over. It's inexplicable and it doesn't make any sense. So I am somebody that considers myself to be not too affected mentally and emotionally postpartum, even though I just said all of what I said, and that probably sounds like a lot. I actually feel pretty good day to day, and I don't think that is the case for a lot of women. And I have just so much empathy and sympathy for women that are in a different situation than I am. Because again, like this stuff is affecting me, but I'm still functional. I'm doing okay every day. I'm literally here recording my podcast. I got dressed. I took a shower. I think that says a lot, about where I am. For me, it really is the physical shock of this postpartum body and my experience in it because it doesn't feel like my body. And it's something that I'm talking to my therapist about. And I suspect that it's not just me. You know, I brought my child Earthside in a interesting way that is becoming more and more common, but I had my daughter via IVF. I did 3 rounds of egg freezing, a couple of rounds of IVF. I had endometriosis excision surgery. I had my C-section. I may have to have this surgery coming up to get rid of my cyst and the rest of my placenta. And I have to tell you that having your body be used for medical purposes for an extended period of time, even of your own accord, right? I choose this, I've chosen this. To have your body used for medical purposes as its primary function for years, and to not have ownership over it, true ownership, right, has been incredibly challenging for me. And I counted the other day, I've had 5 surgeries so far to get my sweet baby girl Earthside, and maybe 6 coming up. And frankly, all worth it. But I never expected my body to A, be so resilient, but B, not feel like it belongs to me. And even after I've had my baby, when I see my friends and I'm like, I feel so uncomfortable in my body, and they say, oh, you just had a baby, give yourself grace. The fact that like my body medically like still isn't mine because of what continues to happen medically is really tough. That cultural narrative truly functions as a way to shut down our legitimate suffering. Because I talk to people about this and what's going on, and they look at me like I'm an absolute crazy person. They're like, you already had your baby. Like, you did it. Great. Good job. But the reality is that just because you have your baby doesn't mean that you snap back and not only your mind is okay again, but that your body is okay again. And everyone thinks it's just about the weight. I gained 60 pounds in my pregnancy. I'm 8 weeks postpartum. I've lost 20 pounds. The scale has been completely at a standstill for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think because of medically, like what is going on with me. My doctor has said that your metabolism does not turn back on until it really recognizes that it's not pregnant anymore, and it doesn't have to hold on to all this fluid and fat because it thinks it's protecting something or somebody. But it's not just about the weight, even though that's what everybody likes to talk about, right? How much weight did you gain in your pregnancy? How much weight have you lost so far? What is your goal weight? What are you doing to lose the weight? What size are you? Are you buying in between clothes? Oh, like don't buy any in between clothes. Just continue to wear like all of your pregnancy outfits. It's not just about the weight, you guys. Like our bodies have absolutely changed, and I don't think they ever really go back. Even if you get back to your normal weight, which is a goal for a lot of people, and if I'm being totally honest, yeah, I guess it's a goal for me too, but I only think it's a goal for me because I'm trying to kind of recapture who I was. And so maybe it's just a stupid fucking goal and it shouldn't be the goal. But think about it like this. Pregnant women know about the hormone relaxin. Relaxin literally relaxes your bones and your ligaments, and it opens up your hips. So imagine if your hip bones are like this before you're pregnant. Relaxin causes your hips to go like this to make room for the baby to go through the birth canal. And it takes a very long time, if ever, for your hips to go like this again. And so I have been trying to buy all of these interim pants that are many size larger, and I am okay with that, but they just don't fit the same. And every woman comments on my Instagram or on my TikTok, like, I'm back at my goal weight, but my clothes fit totally differently. This is why. It's because our bones move in our bodies to make room for these beautiful, amazing babies. And they move because our organs move inside, like when we are pregnant. And I just suspect that it never really goes back to normal. And so I have learned that this whole conversation about weight and size and clothes is something that people fundamentally misunderstand because they're not understanding, like, physiologically what happens to our bodies during pregnancy and what happens to our bodies after pregnancy. It's just not something that is talked about very often. I only learned about this not even from my OBGYN, but from my lymphatic massage expert who focuses on prenatal, pregnant, and postpartum women. She has been one of the only people in my life that has taught me anything about postpartum. There is such a lack of resources and education and doctors that specialize in this. It's like you have the baby in the hospital. If you have a hospital birth, the day you leave, they make you watch these videos about how to keep your baby safe in the bathtub and shaken baby syndrome and how not to do that. And then they literally send you on your way. There is no list of, hey, here are some psychiatrists that specialize in postpartum. Hey, here's a list of pelvic floor experts. Hey, here's a list of physical therapists or massage therapists. And trust me, I realize that all of these people, if you have access to them, you are incredibly privileged. But to know about any of these people is also like incredibly privileged. And frankly, nobody in the United States, 99.99999% of people don't know about any of this stuff. And very few people actually take on these roles as their profession and like make this their life. I asked on Instagram stories a couple of weeks ago, tell me your favorite postpartum expert. And I have almost 900,000 followers. And when I ask questions on my Instagram stories, I usually get a lot of responses. And I got like 4 responses when I asked, hey, who is like the foremost postpartum expert in the United States? And I know that people exist, right? I know that people who are great at postpartum exist, but I think it is a subspecialty as part of a like total body of work that they focus on when it comes to women's health. I literally could not come up with one single person that just said postpartum is all I do. And I focus on everything, right? Like mental health, physical, like the list goes on and on. So yeah, I'm still at 160 pounds on the scale. And I don't feel very good about it, to be honest with you. And I know I've made posts about my weight and that I gained 60 pounds during my pregnancy. And I guess that's a lot to gain during pregnancy. That's what I heard, at least. I was certainly surprised that I had. I did IVF, and so I put on 25 pounds in 3 or 4 weeks, which is pretty shocking from all of like the medication that I took. When you do IVF, you don't just go straight to an embryo transfer. You have to like prep your body and prep your uterine lining for the transfer. In a lot of cases, at least in my case. And those drugs that I took to prep my body made me gain a lot of weight. But, you know, I'm trying to make peace with it. It's something I'm trying to make peace with. Would I like to be smaller? Of course. The weight on the scale doesn't really matter. I think it matters more about how I feel in my body, how I feel in clothes, right? I would love to wear clothes again and look in the mirror and feel confident and like say, yeah, I look really good today, right? I would love to be in my underwear with my husband and feel really confident instead of like ashamed and grossed out by myself, right? I'm sure a lot of postpartum women can identify with that, right? Wanting to feel good in your body around your partner in an intimate way. Even though most partners are so supportive and like they don't even think twice about it, mine doesn't. It's just really tricky. I keep coming back to the fact that people think that you have a baby and it's over. Then you had your baby. But it's not over. And it's not over for a very significant period of time. And that is where the tension is for me in particular. The confusion that I thought that it would be snappy afterwards, and it's not. Particularly because, like, medically, I also continue to not be better or where I need to be. The other element of it that I think is interesting from a postpartum perspective is how pregnancy continues to affect your health, anyone's health long term, right? And how it can change your body like long term. Even after you move through the postpartum phase, what happens to a woman's body for the rest of her life? And it can be positive and negative, right? There are these studies that have come out recently that say if you have a baby when you are 40 or above, they suspect that it will extend your lifespan, that you could live to be 100 years old. And that's really positive for the people that will want to be 100 years old. There are studies that say that if you have a baby, it lowers your risk of breast cancer, right? There are a lot of super positive things that come with pregnancy long term. And then there's also negative things, right? Like your osteoporosis could fucking suck because you had a baby and you didn't refuel with enough like minerals and calcium after you had your baby. That's a small example, right? In my case, when I was pregnant, I had gestational diabetes, And mine was so bad that it was actually insulin-supported gestational diabetes. And there are so many misconceptions about diabetes in general, but also when it comes to gestational diabetes, right? Everyone thinks that it's this like negative thing, that there's a stigma attached to it, that you must just be eating cookies and bagels, and that's why you got gestational diabetes. But trust me, I am somebody that knows a lot about nutrition. I literally make a living for the last decade in the health and wellness space. My wellness company, Love Wellness, sits on the shelves of Target, Walmart, Ulta, etc. Like, I know that I should be eating a lot of protein for breakfast, and I do eat a lot of protein for breakfast. I'm not having a lot of empty carbohydrates here. And I got gestational diabetes, and it just means that your placenta is just so strong and powerful that it is affecting the hormones in your body and how insulin is produced, and, affects your blood sugar one way or the other after you eat. When I announced I had gestational diabetes, my community and followers were like really shocked, and they were really, the general tone was like, wow, thank you for sharing this. And I think it comes back to just this idea that there is a stigma about this and that there shouldn't be one. But yeah, mine was so bad that it had to be controlled by insulin. So I had to take insulin 4 times a day, fast acting every time I ate something. And then I took one at night. I can't remember the name of it, but one at night that helped with my morning fasting blood sugar. And after you give birth, you're supposed to check on your blood sugar levels again a few weeks after you give birth. And I did. And it was half good news and half bad news. And I will put an asterisk on this and say that 6 years before I had my baby, I had high fasting blood sugar levels, glucose levels, the number that you take in the morning before you eat. My numbers were high 6 years ago before I gave birth. So getting my gestational diabetes, what do you say? Being told I had gestational diabetes during pregnancy wasn't super surprising to me, but I took my diabetes test again a few weeks after I gave birth. It's the 2-hour test where you go in and you drink the thing. And I failed the fasting portion of it, but I passed the 2-hour part of it. And so I have been told that I am pre-diabetic, or that I have insulin resistance. Maybe the insurance companies will cover a GLP-1 because I am somebody that legitimately qualifies and could benefit from a medication like that. So we'll see if I just drop a bunch of pounds, everybody, I'm hitting that GLP-1. I have 60 more to go, apparently. But it just comes back to the fact that it's never ending, and pregnancy can stay with you for the rest of your life. And I sound like such an absolute Debbie Downer during this episode. And if you have had a baby, I would not necessarily send this episode to somebody who wants to have a child, because there is just a lot here that you don't know about ahead of time. Not that you would know about it ahead of time, because absolutely nobody talks honestly about this stuff. But this is the episode that I wanted to create today, like a truly honest, I am stuck in my postpartum body episode that just goes into the challenging things about being in this particular season of life. And I will finish by saying that I do recognize that it is a season. It is not forever, right? At some point, my medical issues will resolve. My body will know that it doesn't have to hold on to everything. My lymphatic system will start to work again. I will be able to exercise again soon at some point. Spring will continue to spring out there, right? And I will start to get more of my autonomy back as my body heals and I move into this next chapter. But I did just want to vent to people that I think would understand why I am venting, because everyone else is pretty upbeat about where I'm at right now. And generally I am. I am about my baby and about my family and my husband. I love them to absolute fucking bits. And I love being a mom. But I'm not feeling great about my body and my lived experience in my body right now. And if you can relate, I am here for you. So that is today's episode. If you need somebody to tell you that you are a good mom, I will. You are a good mom. I'm going to start sending my newsletter every week after each episode, where I take a deeper dive into my thoughts and feelings. There's going to be special stuff in my newsletter, so check it out. The link is where all of my links are. It's in my Instagram bio. You can follow me on Instagram at Bosworth, on TikTok, and YouTube is really where I'm going to be posting a lot of podcast content, whether it is short clips, whether it's full episodes. So if you would give a subscribe on my YouTube, a comment, and a like, I would be just so immensely, immensely grateful. And that's it, everybody. That's today's episode of Tell Me I'm a Good Mom.